Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I am one of your hosts, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is the Hive Bustin', King Slayin', Pirate Wreckin', Jolly Rogerin', and apparently Wellspringin', my favorite co-host on the Citadel, Josh Finney.
Yeah, hi. We're back. We have cameras back this week. Please pay no attention to the massive amount of crap behind me. I'm still in the process of unpacking, and kind of everything that hasn't been sorted into a place or unpacked yet has just been unceremoniously dropped in my office. It was moved out of the garage so I can get my car in there, and this is what we ended up with. So next couple weeks, it's probably still going to be really, really messy in here. But you know what? It's okay.
You know what? It's fine. People who have been listening for a while know what happened. Look, turns out you can't just unpack everything overnight.
I used to be able to, and then I turned 30.
Yeah. Well, see, there you go.
I have noticed with each move, I have unpacked slower and slower. When we moved to Austin, it was like, I'm still a spry spring chicken. I can do this. I did it relatively quickly. I was recently unemployed. It was easy for me to unpack. We moved back a year later, and it was like, oh, well, this is going to take a little bit longer than it did last time. I'm just going to leave them stacked up in the corner. And now this time it's like, I have so much other shit going on in my life. It can wait. I still have no desk chair. I'm sitting on one of my old kitchen chairs right now.
Nice.
My chair got returned to sender, so that was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it when companies don't even attempt to deliver things.
That's the best.
So
that's the best. So.
Oh, it's fabulous over here, but
it's fabulous here too,
good.
Josh.
It's all good. It's been a good week. It has not been a week. It's been actually a pretty decent one, despite all the bullshit off camera. It's been a pretty decent week. Go watch Cyberpunk Edge Runners if you haven't watched it yet.
That's what I saw you posting about pretty much all week.
It was incredible. Yeah, I kind of posted it everywhere that I could. It came out on, it came out like 2-3 days ago, and we've already watched the entire series. I want to say it came out on like Monday or Tuesday, and we've watched all 10 episodes already. It's very short. It's 10, 25-minute episodes.
Nice.
So, and like 2 or 3 of that is for credits, respectfully, at the front and at the back. So it's like 18 minutes of actual content. Very, very, very good, though. Works as an awesome companion piece to the game. I think it tells a better story than the game, personally. The characters are all very interesting, and hope that we see some follow-up with a few of them in whatever the next game ends up being in the series or in the DLCs or whatever.
Are you gonna go back and play the DLC, Phantom Liberty? That's what it's called, right?
Yes. So I actually shouldn't answer that as quickly as I did. It depends on when it comes out, because there's kind of like a narrow window where it can come out as of right now, where I would actually be able to play it.
Yeah.
If it comes out in like March or something, I'm not getting to it until at least summer. And we know, of course, this week, the sequel to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, is coming out on May 12th.
Yeah.
So
thank God
the rest of my May.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably my May and June. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was sitting there looking at that, and I was like, all right, so like based on how the seasons fall, I'll have like 3 weeks to get through Breath of the Wild before another season of Lightfall drops. With a new dungeon and things like that. So I'm just like hoping to every single god that exists or ever will exist that Starfield is like either a March or April drop, or it's June or later. Those are like, I need it to avoid May at all costs. Because the year is starting out extremely chaotic, and I'm already having to decide like what I'm just flat out skipping.
Yeah, dude, next year, the first 3 months of next year are like awful. It's so awful.
It's terrifying. Like whether you're here for AAA or you're here for indies, more things keep slipping to that too. Like, there's still the realistic chance that Stalker 2 comes out in that time frame, and I've been waiting for that for like a decade.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for Stalker. Lightfall is coming out. The Dead Space remake is coming out. If you care about it, Hogwarts Legacy is coming out. Suicide Squad is coming out. Breath of the Wild obviously is in May, but I can't even call it Breath of the Wild 2 anymore. I have to start. Tears of the Kingdom is in May.
Well, for me,
Fire Emblem is in January.
Yeah, for me, it's Fire Emblem is the one that I have circled for January.
Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Team Ninja's new game, is coming out in January.
And don't forget, Xbox players will probably get Ghostwire Tokyo in March.
Xbox players will get Ghostwire Tokyo probably the last week of March, first week of April.
Yeah.
Starfield is coming out at some point. Redfall is coming out at some point. I'm very scared about the first 4 or 5 months of next year.
Yeah.
There's just we have reached a point now where there's Assassin's Creed Mirage, which I'm very excited for.
I'm so excited.
We have now reached a point where you cannot possibly consume every single piece of media that you want to. I know that a lot of you've hit that point a long time ago, and I know that a lot of our friends who have families hit that point a long time ago. Yeah. I am a single 30-year-old, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't even with TV shows, I'm so behind on so many things. TV shows though, at least I can sit down, binge it out when I go to bed or something.
Yeah.
But man, it's I was so excited for House of the Dragon, and I'm 4 episodes behind now. Three episodes. I'm 3 episodes behind. I watched the first one, and I haven't been able to catch back up. We might binge straight through 3 of them after this tonight, just so we can get caught up. The only thing we're watching week to week right now that we're absolutely the second it drops is She-Hulk. Everything else just kind of happens when it happens. So we took a detour to do Cyberpunk.
Are you liking She-Hulk?
I love it. I think it's great because it feels like an actual TV show as opposed to a movie that they chopped up into 6 episodes.
Yeah.
It makes the writing and the editing feel a little bit more consistent. I like it. I think it's really goofy. It's definitely not going to be for everyone, but I enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I like it. I don't know if I love it, but I like it.
I mean, that's fine. I saw a lot of people go through that with Moon Knight. I absolutely loved Moon Knight, and most everyone was like, I don't know if I like this.
See, I really liked Miss Marvel a lot.
Miss Marvel was great. Miss Marvel's probably still the best of the 3. It might still be the overall best of the year, and that's mainly due to Iman Vellani, who plays Miss Marvel.
Oh my gosh, she's the best. She's so...
Dude, her reactions at D23 were incredible.
Yeah.
Please tell me you saw the picture of her meeting Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I did.
That is just one of it. She confirmed in an interview also that she's been on the Marvel Studios spoilers board on Reddit for years.
Yeah. I saw that on that they had the behind the scenes stuff. Of the Assembled, right? That was on the Assembled making of whatever.
Yeah, I haven't watched, man. I need to, this is what we talk about, not consuming every piece of media that you want to. I haven't been able to watch any of those or the behind the cameras for the Star Wars series or anything. I have just...
And Andor starts, what, next week?
Oh my god, Andor starts, a week from tonight, Andor starts.
3 episodes, by the way.
A week from tomorrow. A 3-episode premiere, so that means that it's going to take me 3 weeks to watch all 3 episodes at this rate. We've been watching Rings of Power.
Yeah, how's that?
Which I'm enjoying. I'm shockingly enjoying it. I begrudgingly have to admit, but it did a 2-episode premiere. That is mercifully only 8 episodes. So I'm just all right, I think that's part of why I like She-Hulk so much and why I watched Edge Runners as quickly as I did. They were 30-minute episodes, and if you account for credits and stuff, they're even shorter, which is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited for that. So, yeah, when you play a lot of super long games, I promise we'll get to Destiny in just a second. I played through Assassin's Creed Origins over the last couple of weeks because I've never touched it before. And let me tell you something, man. I don't know if I have another one of those ultra long Assassin's Creed games in me. Like, Starfield and Tears of the Kingdom both coming out in the same 3-month span is going to destroy me mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's funny, like, I have people asking me, like, Josh, why don't you play Horizon? You would like Horizon if you just gave it a chance. And I'm like, man, listen, I have, like, the capacity for, like, 2 games like that a year, maybe. I have to, like, save extra oomph for next year.
Yeah. Here, this isn't going to make you feel any better, Josh. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey for like 2.5 years, and I go back and I'll play it for like 10 hours, and then I'll take a break, and then I'll go back and play it for 10 hours. I have 91 hours into that game, and I still haven't touched the DLC.
When I finally rolled credits, I was at over 70 hours, and that's what made me go, man, I really enjoyed this game. And the whole reason that I kept playing it was because I really like Cassandra and how she interacts with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, man, I don't know if I would be able to do that, like, now.
Yeah.
Valhalla was very rough on me. Valhalla felt like really soulless, and I kind of felt that way about a lot of Origins, because it's just like kind of boring to look at a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the desert.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of boring to look at occasionally. The story was fine. Like, I thought the story was good, but it's like, okay, the Assassin's Creed trip of, oh, well, your whole family was killed, go avenge them. Like, cool. I did this during the Renaissance, and I got to play as a playboy named Ezio, and it was a lot of fun. So it's fine. Like, Origins is good. I think it would have been better in my mind if I hadn't already played Odyssey and Valhalla.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never go play the DLCs for Valhalla.
Yeah.
That game made me so mad. My save file is still screwed up after 2 years. I checked it recently. Almost 3 years now.
Right,
my
because one of your quests bugged out. I remember that.
Yeah,
we talked about that on this show.
The final quest bugged out on me, so I will actually never have the achievement trophy, whatever you want to call it, for finishing the game.
God,
after I did all the stuff to get the true ending also. That's infuriating that I had to watch the ending on YouTube. And because of that, like, I also wasn't like a big fan of how hard they pushed like the Norse god bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, that's not Assassin's Creed as far as I'm concerned. They just keep leaning into it with like Dawn of Ragnarok and things like that. Like, no, I'm good. I did finally get the Odyssey DLC today, though, since it came to Game Pass. Yeah. I finally bought the Odyssey DLCs. After I mistakenly bought the Origins DLC 2 years ago when I meant to buy the Odyssey one.
Well, now that you're playing Origins, you can play the DLC.
No, I was so done with Origins by the end. I was like, fuck it. Like, I left so many quests on the table at the end because I just wanted to get it off my hard drive and be done with it.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But, you know, because it's Splatoon time.
Yeah.
So,
oh, Josh, I gotta show you.
Oh, Corey.
I got this guy.
Oh, you got the Pro controller.
Yeah, I did. I'm going to be a pro Splatoon player now.
I like the Pro controller. I was using it the other day, and I was like, man, it's been a couple years. I really haven't used it. I've barely played my Switch over the last 3 years. The last time I used it, like, a lot was before I moved to Austin. Because in Austin, all I did was play New Horizons, and then once I got through that, you know, craze with everybody else in the first month or two of the pandemic, and Destiny got good again, I was like, oh, well, okay, bye. And came back for Metroid Fusion, and that was about it. Not Fusion, Dread, and that was about it. So I really haven't played much. I have 3 houses just, like, staring at me from the corner of my desk.
Yeah, well,
so,
you know, Josh, there's always time. You know, there's not enough to play.
Where? We just talked about not having time.
I know.
I'm getting to the point where I'm like about to start playing Game Pass games on my phone while I watch TV.
Yeah.
So,
well, now that Odyssey now that I can play it through the cloud instead of through remote play, which is garbage.
Yeah.
Cloud gaming works better than remote play. I want to point that out.
Yeah.
Microsoft, if you're listening,
Phil. I'm excited to try out Metal Hellsinger and You Suck at Parking. Both of those came out today.
Yeah,
for Game Pass. So, Deathloop comes next week for all the Xbox fans out there.
I'm actually kind of excited to try it.
It's a very good game. I just never got back to it because my DualSense was kind of fucked up. I had major stick drift on it.
Ooh, gross.
Which I have on my Joy-Cons, by the way, and it makes me really upset because they're my Splatoon Joy-Cons.
Oh no, the pink
my
and green
Splatoon
ones?
2 ones. Mm-hmm. My favorite Joy-Cons.
They were actually on sale last week for $59.99.
Yeah, I'm not buying another pair of Joy-Cons. I will just set one. I will retire the pink one and leave it up on the, or excuse me, I've been running pink or blue and green, so my blue one will be retired to the shelf, and I'll have to put the pink one back on. But I digress. Corey, we're here to talk about Destiny.
Are we? Are you sure? Because we haven't even touched it yet.
I know. We have, 10 minutes, like 10, 15 minutes in, we haven't even touched Destiny. We have an awful lot of Destiny to talk about tonight. Some controversies in the community, a Schwab to talk about.
Are we talking about this stupid Divinity thing?
We're talking about the stupid Divinity thing. We are going to address the Divinity thing, and we're going to address quitter penalties. We're going to address both of those because it's been an eventful week. So last Friday, for those of you who are mercifully not plugged into Twitter,
good on
one
you.
of the guys from Clan Elysium, Salt Greppo, who has finished World's First 3 times in a row now, so for Vault of Glass, Vow of the Disciple, and, of course, King's Fall, tweeted out, basically he thinks that Divinity needs a nerf. And I want to read his comments in full context so that I'm not misrepresenting anything that he says. Okay, come on.
You can do it. You can do it. I believe in you. Performance issues, guys. It's okay. It happens to everybody.
I was typing his name out wrong. All right. So Salt Greppo, not Salt Greppo, comes out and basically says, hey, Divinity nerf discussion. Let's talk about this. So he goes, I've been thinking about a way to nerf Divinity for quite a bit. The gun is basically mandatory for most boss encounters, and it makes aiming a non-factor, which is unhealthy for a game for multiple reasons, such as, and he proceeds to give reasons. So removing most of the skill cap during DPS and making precision weapons way too easy to use. Forcing high-risk, high-reward weapons such as Whisper of the Worm out of the meta since they simply can't be buffed, otherwise they would be S tier due to Div removing the risk aspect. For the longest time, I didn't come up with a viable solution. I don't think removing the debuff would do much. Teams would still apply a debuff by other means and use Div on top of it for free ease of crits. Reducing reserver or mag size would probably be pretty insignificant. We have multiple ways to produce special ammo on demand, and hunters can easily negate low mag downsides by just dodging to reload or throwing a shuriken. There aren't really many viable solutions without completely reworking the weapon. Though guaranteed crits are just too good on certain bosses, but not long ago I came up with an idea that could finally work while also preserving the gun's identity. What if Divinity kept giving the crit bubble but provided a 0% debuff that overrides any other debuff? So for example, using Divinity plus Tether still results in no debuff as long as Div is applied. That would make it so if you decide to use Div, you both sacrifice somebody's damage and lose the ability to debuff the target, making it a safe option, but worse compared to what a skill team could pull off by hitting their shots. This is something that should be easy to implement from a technical standpoint since we already had it in the past lower percent debuffs that used to override higher ones, and it would make using Div a choice with a strong trade-off. This would not affect less skilled teams that want an easy crit when running their weekly raids since damage checks in normal mode are easy enough, and as long as you are hitting your shots, a debuff isn't needed. On the other hand, it would make Day 1 and contest modes way more interesting since ambitious teams will be able to risk not using Div to try and get a higher DPS output by hitting their shots. So, I want to leave it there with those initially. So with his initial thoughts, basically he's proposing that we rework the gun to not give any sort of debuff. Like, for example, Tractor Cannon and Tether provide a debuff, and Divinity as it is provides debuff. You get, I believe, a 30% debuff with the gun, and it has become far and away the most essential gun for raiding. I will not deny that, even if most of us can get through just about any boss at this point without it. There are 3 bosses that I think, or 4, there's 4 encounters in particular that I think you have to have Divinity for, and that is the Sanctified Mine and Garden of Salvation. I can't speak to the Giant Harpy because I have not done Garden in like 3 years. That would be Sanctified Mine, Rolk, the War Priest, and Oryx. War Priest, I think a skilled team doesn't exactly need a div, but you have to, again, kind of what Salt's getting at, you have to have your exact damage output ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I agree on one hand that it would make day one in contest mode way more interesting because, in a way, I don't want to sound elitist here, but I do think that in a lot of ways that has been kind of handed out.
Yeah.
Somebody brought up the Last Wish race on my timeline yesterday because it's been 5 years since it came out, and just being like, man, remember when only 2 teams did it in the first 24 hours and only like a handful of teams did it in the first weekend? Like, that's never going to be recreated. But what if you only had like 300 or 400 teams actually clear it in the first 24 hours? Like, I think we forget how low D2's population was when Forsaken happened, but that I can see that like preserving like kind of some of that prestige for these top tier teams, for the top 0.1%. I can see that definitely being part of it. He follows up by saying, since so many keep saying this, no, difficulty isn't the point. I don't think it's needed, but if that's what it takes, let's reduce boss HP to make up for the nerf so that casuals wouldn't be affected. The whole point is that div shouldn't be both the best and the easiest option. I actually pretty strongly disagree with this particular tweet. I think that the solution, in fact, would be to have a conversation about boss HP, because it's pretty clear that they've compensated in every single raid and dungeon since to account for Divinity.
Oh, yeah. No, dude, the War Priest is ridiculous.
The War Priest has something like 20 million health.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's like...
War Priest, I think, actually has more health than Oryx himself.
Yeah, no, dude, the War Priest is dumb. Like, it's... I'm sorry. It's ridiculous how much it takes.
Yeah, I think it's a little silly, especially when you toss the mechanic in there, which isn't too bad. But I do think that if you're not getting those knights though, like that's also hurting your DPS output. I don't know. Like I think this is an interesting conversation to have though, and I wanted to address it tonight because I both agree and disagree with Salt on this. I see where he's coming from. And when he first put this out, I saw red, like a lot of other people. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm too good to need div. Like, I am the resident div bitch. I run it all the time.
I don't think you've taken it off since I've known you.
No, I've run it literally in every single raid, I think, since the day I got it. And it's great to have that extra damage. Like, there are certain bosses where it simply does not work, and that's kind of a relief when that happens. But I mean, like, we don't run a div on Golgoroth. I know a lot of people do it there. We don't run div on Golgoroth. I would argue that the team I did it with day one is probably getting to the point where we don't exactly need it for Oryx because his crit spot is so fucking huge.
Right.
The War Priest, you need it because he does the War Priest shove. Oh, Tannix is the other encounter. I'm sorry. You need it on Tannix because Tannix has a little tiny head and he's fucking flying around.
He has a little tiny head. Tannix.
He has a little tiny head. I think those are like the main ones where you need it. So yeah, most of the final encounters since Divinity came out, and with like Tannix, it's not even like you don't even need him for the damage. You need it so you have a spot to hit. Because that's an infuriating fight without that. Yeah, I think I attempted it a grand total of 1 time, or watching teams try to do it when the div holder is down is kind of hilarious. When the best damage option for him is snipers and linear fusions. Like, if it was rockets, okay, fine. But it's not rockets, it's precision weapons.
Right.
So I do think that there's a greater discussion to be had here. I think Fallout Plays had a really good take on it. His take was essentially, well, how about instead of just talking about the gun, we talk about how boss HP needs to be reworked as well. Like, if you rated boss HP, sure, you could rework the gun. But without having to take away, and the key thing is without taking away the identity of the gun. Uh-huh. Because I think it's such a unique gun. My argument would be, I think we need more support weapons rather than nerfing the only one. You say it's the only option. What if we got another weapon that could offer some kind of buff?
Yeah. Like, I mean, why does this have to be the only one? Why aren't there, like, Why aren't there new weapons in the dungeons to kind of take its spot, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a
it's been
raid
3 years
puzzle.
in the sun. I'm not like, and I'm not sitting here like clamoring for um a nerf either, but I do think that at some point something needs to happen. When something is too much of an outlier, then when people have to build their entire kits around it, it does become a problem. And I think that's how Salt was getting at it, but I think that he kind of presented that very badly.
Yeah.
I wasn't really a fan of it. Hey, he's done multiple follow-up threads since. I'm not going to scroll through his entire feed to get them. A lot of people responded with a lot of hate and vitriol towards him. I didn't personally see a lot of that because I saw a bunch of people who were like, hey, I can't believe people are being rude to you. And I'm like, I didn't really see it. I did see some people say, this is arrogance and whatnot. And, basically telling him, hey, just don't use it. And, I mean, that would be my solution in the meantime. Hey, man, if you want more of a challenge, just don't use it.
Yeah.
Like, so...
But then they're going to turn around and use it and be like, oh, it's, we need it. And it's like, well, then stop complaining. But also, I agree with you, though. I think there needs to be more of a conversation of, like, adding weapons to the pool that can do similar things and not, not complaining about the only one.
He basically was replying to everybody and complaining. My favorite reply to him was just go touch some grass. Mm-hmm. The game is not that much important. It's not that important. But also, I think that Salt is, and I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful here. I think he needs to also understand that this is the same argument that we're about to have for the PvP thing. You have to understand that the game is never going to cater to the top 1%. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to happen. Like, that's not how these games make their money. Yeah. I'm sorry, but they are not going to they don't make their money by appealing to the top 1%. They make their money by appealing to the 95%, mm-hmm. To the rest of us. And while, yes, there is an argument that needs to be had about, or not an argument, but like a discussion that needs to be had around Divinity, I don't think that his solution is necessarily the solution. I don't know what the solution is, but I do agree that I think it's become enough of an outlier problem that we need to discuss it. I also think that at the same time that Marvel... Oh, no, Marvel. God, Marvel. I had a message pop up on my phone, and it was asking me a question about Marvel. I think that there's a limit to what you can and can't nerf. And I don't know if the solution is, like, take down the amount of, like, bonus damage it gives you or what, but I don't think the answer is to take it all the way down to 0 and still annihilate every other debuff. Maybe if you put it down to 0 so we still get our giant crit spot, but, like, other debuffs worked with it, maybe you could do that because then somebody has to give up, like, a high damage super or a support super. Like, I could see that working. So that, like, maybe it works with Tether again, but, like, all you get is, like, the base damage from Div, which is, like, 600 a hit or something. Mm-hmm. And then there were other discussions I saw popping up, like, well, we should talk about nerfing Well of Radiance again. And I'm like, okay, like, now at this point, you're being elitist. Like, mm-hmm. I get that point. Like, if you're calling for anything that helps players to be nerfed or to be taken out of the game, I do think that's an elitist take, and I will argue against that. But I think that one of the other things that was coming up was... Bungie only listens to streamers. They're going to listen to this guy. And it's like, well, they've done a lot of things lately that have been very unpopular with content creators and streamers. And it clearly shows that they don't really care what they think right now. Skill-based matchmaking being one of the most notable. I ultimately, it is worth noting that Bungie did say a couple of months ago that they were looking into ways to rework Divinity a little bit. I think they realized they opened up a gigantic can of worms.
Yeah.
And again, probably the ultimate solution here is to, take it down to where the debuff does, like, an insignificant amount. But you can still apply another debuff, like a tractor cannon or a tether or something.
Yeah.
I don't know about what the darkness grenades that we had that were on Void when it was when suppression grenades, essentially. Things like that. Like, if your highest debuff could still take over. Like, I think that would be a big deal. You can maybe do that, because I really do think about doing and if you're gonna go that route, though, the conversation we have to have is about boss HP.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a combination of all three of these things we're talking about tonight, right? Like boss HP, a better range of supporting weapons, and tuning Divinity. I think it's got to be a combination of all three.
Yeah, I think, and this isn't just something that can be implemented like in the next couple of weeks either. This is probably a change that would be like, we're talking like world's first raid for Lightfall is when it would be ready at the earliest, because it's going to require a fundamental reworking of the entire game.
Yeah.
So of like all the end game encounters, I mean, I would even argue that it might require a reworking of encounters like Savathun.
Yeah.
On Legendary, because I didn't use Divinity in there. We figured it was just better to get 3 people on the same damage, but also like that's a more skilled team. I don't want to be that guy, but like that's a more skilled team.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's getting at here. Like a more skilled team can just like do the damage output and not need to sacrifice damage for a Divinity. Anyways, some food for thought. We have a little bit more food for thought though. Yesterday on Wednesday the 15th, Wednesday the 14th, excuse me. We had a hotfix deployed at reset, and upon logging back in, people started finding out there are quitter penalties now for control.
Yes, there are.
This obviously led to another very heated debate in the community, with content creators kind of on one side. And I would say that I think more people were in favor of what creators were saying regarding this than they were of Divinity, for sure. PvP is already in a really rough spot in Destiny. I don't know if you guys knew this. PvP is in a really bad spot in Destiny too.
Was not aware, Josh. Are you sure?
But this is one of those conversations that we ultimately need to have, because John and I came down differently on this one. And that's that we actually think this is low-key kind of a good thing, because we have both seen and experienced a lot of people just leaving matches randomly this season. Yeah. I mean, it's been going on for a little while, and that was definitely happening last season, but it's been really bad this season. I've been seeing it in modes that aren't even control. So you can't even use a skill-based matchmaking excuse there. Like, I saw it happening in Iron Banner. I saw it happening in Momentum Control. I don't know if it is a disconnect issue or what, but it's just kind of exhausting reading some of these arguments. So...
yeah, I mean...
quitter penalties in a casual playlist. I want to start there. I don't think that they should be there, but I think that we've also reached a point where people are pretty clearly just going to back out of matches whenever it's a map they don't want. And they're like, I don't know why I'm being forced to play this map. Maybe because it's called playing the fucking game. Like, I'm sorry, like, we can't tailor your experience around 4 maps where you can just use shotties and snipers all the time. Like, I'm so sorry that not every map can be fucking Cauldron for you or something. Like... I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, oh, you pretty clearly only want the D1 maps on top of that, but then we give you Cathedral of Dusk. You're like, no, we don't want that one. We have to actually try on that map. I don't want that. Like, what I'm gathering is a lot of people are upset because now their content and their precious KDs might be at risk with skill-based matchmaking, and now with quitter penalties also. Like, the people who are complaining claim, like, oh, I've never quit out of a match. I never quit. But you're that upset about this? Like, I don't know what to tell you guys, because it's clearly being implemented because it's a problem. They told us that this was coming also.
Yeah.
They told us like 2 months ago that this was coming this season at some point. Although I will digress, they did say it would be addressed in a TWAB, and it was definitely not addressed ahead of time. I think that's part of the problem, is this was just kind of like dropped on us. I have tried to keep an open mind about this, about the div issue. I want to see if I can find the take that I saw yesterday, which I think was kind of the most measured one. I sent it to John, of course, it figures I don't actually have it pulled up.
Of course. Why would you? Gosh, Josh.
No, I thought I screenshotted this. I got to go into my DMs real fast. But there was a really good take from Cool Guy Games, who John and I really, really like for his PvP take. So what he said is, he said this in reply to Bungie Help when they posted about the quitter penalties. They actually had to suspend them almost right away because the servers were so unstable yesterday.
Oh, geez.
That we were all like, I mean, I was getting, or 2 days ago, I guess it was on Tuesday is when it was happening. They had to suspend it yesterday. But he says, before this is standard in 6v6 control, I implore you guys to look at and fix the infrastructure of these games, including with map weight, which we'll talk about map weight in a minute, fire team weight, stack versus solo, which we know is coming at some point, we just don't know when, connection lag, and reward path. In my opinion, in a non-comp free time mode, this penalty is too much with those things still in play. 100% agree. That's where I'm at. Like, I do think that there needs to be some sort of penalty because it's very pervasive, especially on computer. Like on Steam, it's just mind-boggling how much it happens, apparently. Mm-hmm. I don't encounter it as much on console, but I've definitely seen my fair share of it on both sides, too. Both on my team and on the team that might be whooping our ass. And it seems to happen on a few specific maps. Dead Cliffs is one. Disjunction is another. Disjunction, I see people quit out left and right.
Yeah.
I was not aware the community hated that map as much as they did. But there are just a million comments under anything about Disjunction saying this is the worst map I've ever played in any FPS, which I feel is definitely an exaggeration. Like, if that's the worst map you've ever played, please go play more FPS games.
Yeah. You clearly haven't played enough.
Yeah, it was clearly built for Rift, though. And so I understand it from that point. Like, playing Control or playing Momentum, playing Iron Banner can be a little frustrating at times on there. I get it. I didn't think Eruption was too bad on it personally, but I do think Control is pretty bad. I digress, though. I think Cool Guy kind of has the right formula here for what we need to do going forward. And those are not easy solutions. So I do agree that I think for now, taking quitter penalties out and focusing on back end is the biggest thing. For me, the biggest is the reward path. I think you hit the nail on the head there, because in PvP, there's almost no reason to go play it. Like, I see a lot of content creators getting very upset that, Bungie's catering to those who only play their 3 matches for a pinnacle and then go away. And it's like, no, that's not exactly what's going on here, but they are trying to appeal to a much wider player base. Like, so many of us decided a couple years ago we didn't want to play PvP anymore because it was so sweaty, even in Control for us.
Yeah, I mean, remember how excited everybody was when Halo came out, and everybody was kind of like, we have a PvP option now that,
Yeah, like there is a multiplayer for us now. And one solution that I saw, I don't remember if it was a Cool Guy who posted it, but there was a PvP person who posted it the other day. I want to say it was Cool Guy, who also said that taking away your KD off of your emblems for anything that is not survival or trials needs to be a thing. So you can't go around flaunting it. So that maybe people care less about their elo and things like that.
Right.
Like, hey, if you want to be able to brag about these, go into a mode where you actually have to try. I do think skill-based matchmaking is what needs to be in the more casual playlists. I will say that. Mm-hmm. Because I'll tell you right now, like, I could really give a shit if it's a sweat fest for the top players. Like, you're a top player for a reason.
Right.
Suck it up and get in there. I don't think it should extend to the more casual playlists like Momentum or... I
mean, it should be what? Elimination, survival, and what? What's the other big one that should probably be that, and that's it.
I mean, so survival and trials should just continue being like as is. I think part of the problem is we don't know what they're going to do for the comp rework, which is supposed to be coming next season. If they had actual like tiers in there, like real tiers, and treated this like a real thing, then I think that would help a lot too, like actually having to play for rewards.
Mm-hmm.
But the
PvP
problem
gives
is
me tears.
you would have to actually update the comp rewards like every season, like you do it with Trials. Why can't we do it with comp? We need to devote a couple people to comp and PvP rewards in general. If we can do it for Trials and Iron Banner, we need to do it across the board.
Yeah.
I think that PvP is a unique thing, right? Because like you can look at it and be like, well, you know, there's only one new weapon in Gambit and in Strikes also. But I mean, you look at PvE content, because we're gonna leave Gambit out of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at PvE content, there's not just strikes, there's raids, there's dungeons, there's all the seasonal stuff. Like, look how much we get to earn in PvE every season, and then compare that to PvP. Like, yes, there are things in Iron Banner and in Trials. Those are in two very specific playlists. They're only up for a handful of weeks a season, if that. Iron Banner's up twice a season now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just fucking wild.
Dude, that's not even 10 times a year now. You know?
Yeah. And like honestly, like the loot needs to start reflecting it if it's only going to be up for a couple weeks a year, like, or a handful of weeks, not a couple, but a handful of weeks a year. Like, it kind of needs to reflect that. Like, it's basically up the amount of times that you're going to spend in 3 of the holiday events, if that.
Yeah.
So,
and like,
I don't know what,
and like
I
the,
want to be.
oh, sorry, just the loot pool in Iron Banner right now. It's been the same for a year. Like, it's not even worth going into play right now.
I will defend it. We did get 2 reprised weapons this season. We got Roar the Bear, and we got another one back. I forget what the other weapon was, but it's a little bit further into the rewards track. But we did get 2 more weapons brought back. It's just like, can we get some new weapons in Iron Banner? The last unique new weapons that we got in Iron Banner, I think, was Peace Bond. I mean, Peace Bond was genuinely like one of the last ones. We got that. We got Reese Walker. We got Archon's Thunder, and we got something else, like pretty much all at the same time. We got like 4 new weapons in like a 3-month span in Iron Banner. But that's also the last time we got new armor. We will now have gone.
It's been at least a year.
It's been a year since we got new armor. By the time, if they don't give us new armor in December, we're looking at a year and a half since new Iron Banner armor.
Yeah.
Which again is pretty unacceptable to me. I'm not saying like we need it every single season like we did have, especially with only having this twice a season now. I do think that you can if you're going to do that, I think you can get away with only having 1 armor set a year. I don't have a huge problem with that. Then that gives, okay, if you weren't able to play Iron Banner for a whole season, that still gives you a couple seasons to like get the armor a la Trials. But we just need a little bit of communication on that front. I would even go so far as to say that I think that the armor, you can have the base armor in Crucible that looks the same as the Vanguard and the Gambit ones. I have never personally had a problem with that. Mm-hmm. I understand like resources. I'm hoping with the Sony money, maybe they can devote a few more resources here.
Yeah.
I would like to see a special set of armor created for comp. Or even like armor ornaments created for comp that maybe like the armor ornaments rotate out like every 2 seasons or something.
Yeah.
But like you have to go in and earn them. I think that weapon ornaments would be something you can do. I think PvP just needs a whole suite of weapons in general. Maybe it's not updated every season. Maybe it's every other season, but you need things to chase in PvP. Like that's how you're going to get casuals in there, is you're going to make loot that's rewarding to go get. Not just like, oh, well, there's this one weapon, so we're all going to play during Iron Banner. So we're not only getting banner drops, but we're getting a ton of drop. We're getting like double and triple drops of Riptides, for example. Like we did last season, and like, oh, we're just going to get like 20 drops of these and then figure out what we want to do from there. Ingram focusing needs to come to Shaxx like today.
Yeah,
that's pretty inexcusable. Like, I think we all pretty universally praised the rewards tracks that we can get at these vendors now, and I totally agree. But like, how do you keep people playing past that first reset? Because like, for one ornament is not going to keep the majority of us playing.
Right. No.
I think that whole rewards track has to have some. Maybe you give us some curated roles on that second track for the existing weapons, a weapon ornament, maybe. Even if it's just like a legendary ornament for like, what if this season is the SMG? What if there was a legendary ornament for the SMG that was in that track that you could earn in addition to the grenade launcher one? Like maybe that would get people in there still. I don't think ships and ghosts and transmats are the answer because nobody gives a shit about that stuff. But you got to come up with something beyond just like prisms and a golf ball or prisms and an exotic Ingram. You got to come up with something else.
I think ornaments is the way that you go, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, like we're armchair developing here, right? I don't know how difficult that would be to implement.
File save as ironbanner.jpg.
I mean, you would need to do it arguably in Iron Banner. You need to do it. I'm arguing just for regular PvP at this point. Like, I can give a shit. Iron Banner has its own rewards. Fine, cool, whatever. You got your own rewards track there now. It's a pain in the ass, but that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
Like, just regular PvP loot pool in general needs to be, like, massively overhauled. I think, like, you need to go from 1 new weapon to, like, 3 a season at least. For comp is probably the way. What if you did for comp, hypothetically? What if there was a set of armor ornaments, there was a special exotic weapon ornament, a legendary weapon ornament? Like, what if there was a special comp skin just for the seasonal weapon?
Right.
What if there was a special comp skin for it?
That'd be cool.
And, like, to match it, I'll even throw you another bone here. What if there was one that you could only earn from Grandmasters?
Well, that's the thing, though, is like they're already kind of doing that in Nightfalls, right? With the what were they? Not the Adept version, but the whatever that equivalent is, right? Like
it's Adept. It's Adept. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I don't think that you can really do so. Like those have special weapons. I don't think doing special weapons in comp is the solution. I want to be really clear on that one. I think that would be such an abysmal idea. What I could see the argument being for is what if you did adept versions of the existing weapons in the loot pool?
Yeah.
Like, what if you could go into PvP, into comp, and earn an adept Riptide? You're doing the most challenging content. You deserve to have the best version of that potential weapon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think if you were to do weapons, that would be the way to go. I don't think locking an exotic or even a legendary like Not Forgotten behind there is the solution anymore. We've moved beyond that as far as I'm concerned. But I think they're just like some basic ideas that you can use to get a loot pool rework going. Obviously, we all know about the netcode issues, and you can't say, well, what if the quitter penalty is just there? What if it's gone if you get disconnected? You'll have people yanking their Ethernet cords again, and that's not a joke. Like, you'll actually have people that will go that far to not play a map.
Yeah.
And then, we have to re-enable this because people were abusing it. You have people who don't live in the Americas or in, the European Union who are going to get completely screwed at that point. Like people in Australia, in the Middle East, in Japan, in even, parts of Europe, South America, even like parts of North America don't have great internet at times. Like, you're going to punish them.
Right.
The solution isn't just get better internet. Like, that's just not an answer in a lot of instances.
Right. Yeah.
I want to see what else did he say. Map voting is something else that I've heard a lot of people throw around in recent weeks, which I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think Destiny's the kind of game that needs map voting. I think you need to play the maps, because otherwise the rest are going to get stuck on the sweaty maps that we don't want to play on all the time.
Right.
And in Fireteam Wade, stacks versus solo. I think we've now reached a point where if control is going to be your permanent kind of casual mode, you need to implement freelance control.
Yeah.
I honestly think most of the issues right there. I think that would alleviate a lot of the problems that people have, because I see complaints like, I get matched up against 6 stacks, and man, I don't know where y'all are finding all these 6 stacks at, because I rarely see it. But
right.
Okay.
It's hard enough to get 6 people together to play. Why would I want to go play PvP?
Right. Do we have any other thoughts on this? Because we do have a little bit more PvP to talk about in the TWAB, like right now.
No, let's go to the TWAB, Josh.
All right, let's go to the Schwab. There are some questions that are definitely raised in here. We'll get to the PvP stuff in a minute. In here, we start out with online game security to find out what's on the horizon regarding account protection and a solid foundation of integrity for play. Bungie Product Security says our mission is to protect players from cheating and enable players to experience the game as its talented designers intended. We want to prevent cheaters from being able to ruin the experience for legit players, whether that be directly in competitive PvP activities or indirectly via boosting or making new burner accounts and bringing them into content like trials. The success of BattleEye, LOL, has allowed us to focus on new data science, machine learning, and analysis tools. Some of the first detections went into limited deployment earlier this year. We've moved some into full production with others coming later this year. After building the model, we carefully tracked and accounted for changes introduced by each game release, analyzed known bugs for likely impact, and assessed sandbox changes. We did all this to minimize the risk of false positives. Beyond the initial precautions, we set very generous thresholds, so nobody would be banned for having Cosmic Rays strike their computer and flip an errant bit. After all that, if there were any borderline cases, we used some signatures that indicate the presence of certain cheats on the user's computer. This resulted in one of the largest ban waves in our history. Some of the people whose accounts were banned have said they don't remember cheating. When we investigate these cases, we often find they gave their account to someone else to play the game for them. We again remind everyone that you must protect your account and do not use account recovery services. Saying your fingers were not on the keyboard when cheating occurred will not be considered during an appeal. So basically, stop giving out your account.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. Just stop doing it.
Yeah.
Iron Banner.
Yep.
Man. All right. Yeah. So I definitely want to talk. I want to talk Iron Banner here for a second. First off, I got to play a lot more Eruption over the weekend, and it finally clicked for me. This mode is really, really fun. I think part of the reason it's fun is because you already move faster when you start getting the bonuses, but that combined with the arc bonuses is just absurd. I was like jumping across the map practically as a hunter. It was a lot of fun. It needs some fine tuning, but it was a lot of fun. I can't wait for this to be in the rotation with momentum and mayhem and things like that. This is a party mode, and I really liked it.
Yeah, cool.
Matchmaking times and skill. On average, matchmaking times for control have only increased by 10 to 15 seconds. That's good. For players on either extreme of the skill curve, their matchmaking times have either doubled or more than doubled. High and low skill players naturally have fewer opponents at their level. As such, we adjusted our configuration so that matchmaking expands to a wider range of skills sooner, thereby finding matches sooner for these players. We don't expect this to affect the control experience for most players in the middle of the pack. We hope it broadens the available pool of Guardians for our high and low skill players. There's talk about latency here. The quitter penalty. Here we go. We're aware there's been an increase in quit rates for certain lobbies, whether due to connection quality or skill of opponents matched, particularly high-skill players. While we hope the above changes alleviate the quitting issue, we would like to actively discourage quitting as it negatively impacts the remaining players. As such, we have added control to the list of activities that can trigger the Crucible suspension system. Note that suspension timers for control are temporarily shared with competitive playlists, Glory and Trials. We're actively working on separating the suspension timer for competitive versus control. And that's good, because I saw a lot of people going in and intentionally getting their account suspended. They're going to be in for a real rude awakening tomorrow when Trials comes back.
Yeah.
Map selection. Outside of one map, we don't see any predictable difference in quit rate between maps. I wonder what that map is. Really takes some fucking rocket science here, people. We'll be making changes to map weighting soon. We don't see this being a major factor in quit rate. I highly disagree. While we have always weighted new maps higher for a couple of seasons in the interest of letting players see new content, we also started specializing playlist maps in Season 18, starting with Control. We used a number of factors in determining initial weightings, quit and mercy rates, player sentiment, internal surveys, and more. We will continue to periodically analyze the process, and as always, welcome the feedback. In the interest of transparency, here are the current map selections for Control. So I'm going to read it as it is in the new patch that went out today. So previously, increased weighting was given to Disjunction and Cathedral of Dusk. Those have now been put into the full weighting pool, along with Fragment, Twilight Gap, Rusted Lands, Distant Shore, Endless Vale, Fortress, Radiant Cliffs, Pacifica, Altar of Flame, Javelin 4, Widow's Court, Vostok, and Eternity. Reduced weighting has been given, which means you'll get it less than the others. Has been given to Bannerfall, Midtown, Exodus Blue, thank fucking God, Wormhaven, thank God, and Burnout. Significantly reduced weighting has been given to the Dead Cliffs, which I think will elicit a lot of very positive reactions from people. No more getting trapped in the A-spawn. And removed Anomaly, Control, and Convergence. There has been a lot of confusion over what does removed mean, because they haven't actually told us. Does that mean it's completely out of the rotation? Does that mean that it's just like highly unlikely to show up in Control, or what? And we haven't really been able to get an answer here, unfortunately.
I mean, to me, removed means it's gone out of the rotation.
That's the way I was interpreting it, but there was quite a bit of confusion across the tweets and the Reddits today on this one in particular. We were trying to get some clarification from the writer and basically did not get it. Big surprise there. I don't know. Like, I think this is pretty fair. I know a lot of higher end PvP players have been begging for convergence to be taken out for a long time. Meanwhile, the rest of the casuals are thrilled that Anomaly and Cauldron are gone from Control. Now, it's worth noting this is just from Control. They're not gone from Iron Banner. They're not gone from the rotators. They are just out of the rotation in Control for right now. I would not be surprised to see that extend, though. If they think that this has been working out decently, I would not be surprised to see this extend.
Yeah.
There's a Fall Guys crossover happening with Destiny. I kind of forgot this was happening, that they actually told us about this in the Lightfall reveal.
Wait, in Destiny?
No, in Fall Guys. Destiny in Fall Guys.
Oh, I knew it was happening in Fall Guys. I thought you meant like
these costumes actually don't look horrible.
I thought you meant the little bean people were coming to Destiny.
Oh my god, no! I think I would just quit playing.
A little ghost, like the little Fall Guy ghosts or something.
I would quit. Some of the cosmetic goodies that the crossover will deliver include Warlock, Titan, and Hunter outfits, which is the base armor from the Red War, a spicy ramen celebration, and a Ghost Shell wearable. And this starts on the 17th, so by the time you're listening to this will be starting. Because I think that date, I actually think that date is wrong. I think it's supposed to start on the 16th. I don't see this starting on a Saturday. But if it does, it starts on Saturday, or it might be live whenever you're listening to this.
It's happening this weekend. Friday.
It's
Saturday,
happening this weekend
somewhere.
At some point. Yeah. I really like that they say Fall Guys in Destiny is a match made in heaven, just one of the many ways we're proving that the world of light and darkness doesn't always have to be focused heavily on the darkness. Sometimes there's beams, other times there's pirates, talking worm guns, a celestial horse taking center stage in an interdimensional talk show. Really, Fall Guys isn't the weirdest thing that we've done. I would agree.
Yeah.
Master King's Fall is dropping on September the 20th. Which is Tuesday at Reset. It'll drop normal mode challenges. The rewards will drop double loot for the encounter the challenge is active on. And then for master mode, encounters reward stat-focused armor. Challenges reward the adept weapons. All encounters are set at power level 1600. I'm going to be totally honest here. This doesn't seem like it's really worth doing, like the last two master raids. I don't see people really flocking to go do these. And it's not because, like, the adept weapons won't be worth it. I will probably attempt to get through master mode and maybe do the challenges, since you can do the challenges individually to get the ship and the sparrow. But that's going to be about it. I can't see myself, like, actually killing myself to get the adept weapons.
Yeah.
I have long been in the camp that I don't think that the adept weapons offer you that much. Like, I think the big deal with the adept weapons is you can put the adept mods on them. That's the big perk for me on them. So maybe the sniper with adept big ones would be something worth looking into. But Yeah, I don't see myself killing myself for this. The reaction was kind of the same, just across the community. Like, oh, okay, so this is basically as pointless as Master Vow the Disciple and Master Valk. Got it. The rework to rewards from Master Raids cannot come soon enough, and if I remember correctly, that's something they're targeting for Lightfall.
Yeah.
And it cannot get here soon enough. Make this stuff worth running, man. It's just a shame that it's going to take that long, but I get like certain things have to take priority. PvP loot pool. Other than that, there's not a whole lot left here. Known issues. One of the ones, and it's something that I've definitely been noticing, is the 120 hertz refresh rate option is missing for PS5 and Series X. At some point, that got messed up at some point.
That's weird.
And there's a few others in there that you can go look at. The final note in here, and I want to read this. This is from one of the player support leads and community moderation leads. Who's got a message here? Hey guys, my name is Drew. Some of you may know me as Dorado. Earlier this year, we lost a well-respected and longtime member of the community, Seraphim Crypto. Almost 9 months in, and the pain of loss remains for many of us who knew him. Trying to put into words the loss we felt has been a challenge, even now. So here's a link to an obituary I wrote back in January about my friend. As time has slowly gone by, I've dug into our moderation chat to find some of his favorite things he shared with us. Sarah's favorite Destiny class was the Exo Void of Dawn Titan. His favorite armor was from Scourge of the Past and Black Armory. He loved using bows. His favorite number was 37. His favorite color was purple. He loved to toast, and he always fought for human rights. To honor his memory and to be part of the game forever, several of us at Bungie, who are so incredibly awesome to help make this happen, were able to work with our designers to create a new community emblem, Seraphim's Gauntlets. This emblem represents his love of Destiny, Titan Gauntlets, and the number 37. There are only 36 dots. One is left unlit in the center to represent the loss we feel for him. I hope everyone who wears this emblem feels the same connection we felt for Seraphim Crypto and the love for our community. If you want to join us in honoring our friend, here's the emblem that allows us the opportunity to do just that. And the emblem is in the TWAB. I'm not going to try and read it out because,
it's a cool looking emblem.
It's going to sound different. It is a cool looking emblem. I looked at it earlier. I'll be redeeming it, but it's right in there. And a note for next week's TWAB. We'll be diving into more weapon theory, showing off spiffy ornaments, and more. So we'll see what's going to happen there. Maybe they're ready to talk mid-season patch.
Yeah.
For weapons. I got to be thinking that when they say weapon theory, that probably means that we're not done talking about Divinity.
Yeah.
Bungie kind of has to address it at this point because even the social media manager, Griffin, was wading into this conversation and basically telling people to calm down and stop being mean to Salt.
Yeah.
So, that's going to have to be addressed at some point.
Yeah. I wonder. I mean, what if they don't, though?
Yeah. And let's be honest, there is going to be a rework of some kind, but I suspect it's just lowering the threshold from 30% down to 15 or 20.
Yeah.
So nerfing it all the way, but they are doing a significant nerf to it, enough that certain teams will not be able to do it on day one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure, and to be frank, I'm just kind of tired of talking about Divinity at this point.
That is fair. I kind of
Divinity and PvP. If I could mute two things forever, it would be those two things on my Twitter timeline. But you know what I don't want to mute, Corey?
Lore Corner.
Lore Corner, baby. This one comes to us from Between Stolen Stars, one of the seasonal lore books that you can earn from doing some of the pirate activities. This is called number 3, Trust. Eris Morn's workspace was organized, clean. A camp stove, a burned wok, a crate of rations to keep her fed till the next supply drop to Luna, a metal work table with neat arrangement of medical equipment carefully kept, half of a thrall's skull, a saw resting at its side, a collection of discarded chitlin, a skein of hive leather. Drifter picked up a jar from a shelf. The container was filled with pickled hive eyeballs, dimmed by death. You live like this? Drifter asked, incredulous. Eris looked at him with a frown. What do you mean? Like what? Drifter gestured around the room. When she said nothing, he continued. You called derelict a heap. She switched on one of the harsh halogen lamps hanging over her work table. The light cast everything in hard lines of shadow. It is. So what'd you call this? He shook the jar of eyeballs. They rolled and thumped together in their glass container before settling into a teeming stare. Eris silently returned gaze to the reliquary. It was an unassuming vessel, its contents obscured save for a strange interior glow. Undoubtedly, the scribe of House Light has examined these, Eris said. Why bring one to me? Ido ain't exactly a darkness expert. I see. She felt the grooves and patterns under her fingers as she turned the reliquary in her hands. She felt the shift and shudder of the darkness as it responded to her touch, to her silent inquiry. She ran the pad of her thumb over the seal's edges. When Drifter had first offered the relics to her, Eris called them a gift. Now that she held one in her hand, she did not think she should unwrap it. She looked back to him. What is your motivation for helping the Guardian? I do not assume altruism. Drifter gave her a look of mock offense. Hey, why not? I did assume deflection. Speak plainly. Drifter fell silent for a moment. His face was pensive. When he finally spoke, his words were carefully chosen. The Elixni need a win, he said, looking away from her. After all that, the Vex, salvation, everything. House Light needs a win. And defeating Aramis will be a win. Yeah, hope it sticks this time. Drifter leaned back on his heels and grinned. Plus, always nice to be owed a favor. Don't know if Spider will make good on his, but I bet Captain Kell would. Again, deflection. She placed the reliquary down on her work table. Drifter didn't move to pick it up. You sure you don't want to keep him? His tone was genuine. Eris considered this, not the offer, but the sentiment behind his words, the implicit, unspoken faith. You trust me. He shrugged. Who wouldn't? There was a smile, slight, careful, at the corner of her mouth, something close to delight. Then stay, be silent, and listen. I have thoughts on their utility. The Drifter did as she asked. This kind of expands upon the plot thread that we had at the end of last season, where Drifter and Eris were said to be searching the reef for something. At the time, we assumed it was setting up the season. Now it seems that they have interest in these darkness artifacts, and it really feels like if you played this week's story, that next week is going to be kind of like the tipping point for the season.
Yeah.
We have clearly gotten to a point where, yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how that plays out. So this may be viewed in a different light next week, because this is her toying with one of those darkness artifacts. I know for so long we were like, well, she's going to be, the embodiment of Savathun. I still think that something fucky's going on with her head.
Yeah. What do you think is happening?
Part of me is wondering if the witness isn't just using Aramis, but that maybe he is, without overtly going into Eris's mind, maybe he is slowly, maybe through some of these darkness artifacts, influencing her to do certain things. For example, we know that Savathun was watching Zavala through, well, it's implied that it's Savathun at least, was watching Zavala through the Ahamkara skull that hangs above Shax's crucible.
Right.
And that when Eris told Drifter to go talk to him and take it down, Shax reacted fairly violently about it. But that they were kind of using that to spy on the last city. And it's implied that it's Savathun, but we don't know for sure. We probably do. It's probably 99% Savathun, but now we have to start wondering if it's the witness, because he was able to talk to Aramis while she was still frozen.
Right. By the way, let's leave Eris frozen, by the way. Up there. Instead of, taking her and putting her in some sort of prison of elders equivalent.
Yeah, that didn't make a whole lot of sense either, but here we are, live and learn. It's pretty clear that Aramis doesn't totally trust the witness either, but she's fucking scared. Yeah. It's what did he actually show her?
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna read one more.
I think the story and the theories around the story this season are really interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to get into any spoilers because I've tried to remain spoiler free myself. I know that some cutscenes have been data mined.
Yeah.
You can go seek those out if you want to. I have no idea if they're quote unquote real or not.
Yeah. I haven't
I'm
watched
not
anything.
actively. Yeah, I'm actively not watching or indulging in any of that. So like none of what I'm saying is like predicated on something that's going to come in the future. I haven't watched any of those. I don't really buy into some of the theories that I've heard. I would love to be proven wrong, and I have my own theories after this week's story mission. And after some of the other lore books that we've read, one of which I'm saving for next week in particular, because I have a feeling that it's going to tie into some of these artifacts. But let's talk about let's have an abrupt change of topic here and find about what life is like in the Elixni Quarter. This is from the same book. It's number 4. An ether fizz, Spider called to the dreg behind the bar. For our fearless Kel. Sorry, I can't do Spider's voice because I don't sound like I'm needing a pack of menthol lights.
It's fair.
And
it's
like
okay.
I've been drinking nothing but Keystones for like 15 years. Spider sat on his makeshift throne at the back of the ether tank, surveying his tiny fiefdom. He beckoned Mithrax to approach. To what do we owe the honor of your presence, Mithrax Kel? Spider asked loudly, overpronouncing the human version of his name. Surely you have more important people to see than a humble entrepreneur like myself. Those at the top of the tower, for instance. Mithrax noted a few sharp scoffs amongst the crowd at Spider's mention of the tower. I wish to make clear the rules of the Elixni Quarter, Mithrax said, so that there are no misunderstandings. Well, of course, Spider proclaimed with fox deference. Misunderstandings are how people get left behind. We wouldn't want that. Mithrax huffed at Spider's indelicate illusion. His retort was interrupted by a polite chitter at his side. He looked down to see the dreg from behind the bar proffer a small ether canister. Mithrax attached the ether canister to his rebreather and took a sharp pull. He was pleasantly surprised by the sensation. It was at once filling and effervescent. The House of Light had been living on the most basic ether for so long he'd forgotten how delightful such concoctions were. Spider noticed the Kel's appreciation and scoffed. So the rules, he prompted. Yes, Mithrax rumpled. We are not yet welcome by all the last city, so we must avoid angering our human neighbors. Agreed, Spider nodded. The humans can be peevish, especially when you kill dozens of them at a time. Mithrax ignored the jab and pressed on. That's why there must be no violence inside the city walls. Ever. This is the Elixni Quarter, is it not? Spider bristled. The Elixni should be free to met out justice as needed. In our own way. I did not say there must be no violence, Mithrax muttered in sotto voice. Only that it must not happen inside the walls. Spider nodded at the concession. Very crafty. Agreed. Is that all? No, that is not all. From today forward, there will be no more docking in your organization. He nodded toward the dreg behind the bar, whose lower arm stumps were covered with studded leather caps. What? Spider exclaimed. That's preposterous. Elixni have been docking dregs since the whirlwind. It's tradition. The crowd murmured relentlessly at the prospect of confrontation. Not in my house, Mithrax boomed. The room went silent. Mithrax turned to address the crowd. I am Kel, and I decree that no Elixni in the House of Light shall be docked. He turned back to Spider and lowered his voice. Unless you wish to be the exception to the rule. Spider chuckled. There's the Mithrax I knew, he said slyly. As long as you're still willing to draw blades when the time comes, we'll be just fine.
You know who you sound like when you read a Spider is the the alien from Men in Black.
Oh, the Edgar?
Yeah.
It's funny when I first read this and I was like reading this in my mind, like Spider's voice has always reminded me of the fake Santa Claus from the Santa Claus 2.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, it's fair.
So this is pretty straightforward. Mithrax is just kind of laying down the law of the land to a guy who hasn't had to follow rules in like 200-300 years, easily.
Yeah.
Who is definitely wanted by like every single person out there. Like every major powerful creature in the galaxy would love to kill him right now. Like the Awoken are flat out looking to see if they can assassinate him Zavala and Ikora are less than thrilled that he's here. Drifter is even only okay with it because he owes Drifter a favor at this point, and he knows that the Guardian would blow his head off as soon as him and Crow are able to do it. So there's not a lot of options here for Spider. He kind of has to follow Mithrax's lead here.
Right.
But between this and between some of the dialogue that we get this week, that we got in this week and last week, I really feel like a showdown between Spider and Mithrax is not only coming, but is flat out inevitable. I don't know if those two are going to fight, but it feels like Spider isn't being fully truthful about his reason for being here.
Right. And I don't know. I mean, just judging by the story going on now, I don't know if Mithrax is being 100% truthful either.
So let's talk about Mithrax for a second, because you've caught up on this week's story, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So, for anybody who's read the lore books, there is a piece that we read that alludes to a group of Elixni discovering the pyramid on the moon years and years and years before the Guardian would find it. And that book is told from the perspective of somebody. We're not entirely sure who that book is about. It's not about Aramis, but is it about Mithrax's mother or his father, or who is that book about? Because I don't think it's about Mithrax either. Mithrax, we know, was born after the collapse, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
I wonder, what if the initial, because we now know that Callus is the disciple of the Lunar Pyramid, obviously.
Right.
What if somebody else was made into a disciple in the meantime? I mean, so there's been the rumors about Nezarec forever. Okay? Not forever, but for the last couple seasons, there's been a pervading theory about Nezarec.
Yeah.
And what was the sin that Nezarec committed and this and that? Obviously, we have a glaive named after Nezarec. We have Nezarec's Whisper. We have the helmet Nezarec's Sin. What if Nezarec isn't what we were thinking? What if it wasn't a fallen guardian that had become a disciple? What if Nezarec was one of the Elixni?
I mean, that's a
It would explain part of why Mithrax and Aramis both want to find these artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
It explained why Spider's interested, but also Drifter's definitely been around long enough to have some theories himself. Some of the things they're described that they encounter in the tunnels don't sound quite hive-like. They almost sound like the monolith creatures that Drifter found on the ice planets.
Yeah.
By their descriptions. And again, we're going to read this one next week because, first off, it's not uncovered in the API just yet. It is uncovered in game. I obviously don't have access to my game in here. We're going to read that next week, though, because I think that's going to be one of the most important. That lore book only has 4 pages in it, but they're all super long. This is the one that we're getting for doing the audio messages you can listen to. The others are what you get for every couple of pirate lords. Yeah. If it was Nezarec, that would explain a lot. That they got uplifted and things like that in the aftermath of the whirlwind. But that maybe Nezarec, and maybe that's what the title Nezarec's Sin refers to, is that they took the darkness power, but then maybe eventually rebelled. I don't know. Like, there's something in that lore tab, though, that says that they heard a whisper coming, and that's when they discovered the pyramid.
Right.
I think that would be kind of cool if Nezarec had actually been, an Elixni. I'm not fully buying into the conspiracy theories, though, that so many people have. Like, oh my god, like we're gonna figure out who Nezarec was. Like, but there's clearly some shit in Mithrax's past. So what if Mithrax was originally part of Nezarec's crew, and that's what he's trying to hide so much now that he's in such fervent devotion to the light?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would make sense. I mean, I'm not hating that idea at all.
Well, what would you do if Mithrax had been revealed to be a follower of the darkness at one point? What would the reaction be? From his daughter, especially from Ido.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, then you could tell a really interesting story that way, and like maybe he didn't like if he's part of this crew, maybe like when he was younger, he didn't know the difference between the light and the dark, or like
Right.
since he didn't live.
Because he would have only grown up with the stories of the light.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could tell something really interesting.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious to see what happens here. So.
Yeah, me too. But you said we're going to get to that next
I like
week.
it, though. Yeah, this season is pretty shrouded in mystery. Like, other seasons, we pretty much know where we're going by this point. We still don't quite know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say the story is, like, stalling and meandering, but they're clearly waiting to drop a bombshell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, the other question I think we have to have, though, and it's not explicitly talked about here in the lore corner, but Ido recites part of the Guardian Creed. Bravery inspires sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us have kind of come around to the way of thinking that something terrible is going to happen to either her or Mithrax, and that whoever it is that actually dies. I mean, we see Mithrax and Aramis flat out fighting in the trailer for the season.
Right.
If one of them were to fall, do they get resurrected by a ghost and become the first Elixni Guardian?
I think that's what happens. I think it's Mithrax, though. You can't Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think Mithrax is the popular answer here, and I've long been a proponent of it. I've said it for a couple of years that I think Mithrax will be a guardian at some point. He will get a ghost, whether it's here or it's in the epilogue of the game or whatever. Like, he will get a ghost at some point.
Right.
I'm no longer convinced that it's going to be Mithrax. I think.
But you really think they're going to do
it?
You really think they're going to let a ghost revive a villain 2 times in a row, though? Technically 3?
No, I think it's going to be Ido. I think it's going to be his daughter. I think it's going to be Ido. I've come around to the thinking that it might be Ido. Now, on one hand, if it is Mithrax, Mithrax would not remember anything that happened, and it would fall to his daughter, the Scribe of House Light, to tell him about everything that happened, both the good and the bad. She would be exposed to the bad things he did at this point, which he's clearly tried to keep from her.
Mm-hmm.
And still wants to keep from her. He flat out threatened Spider a week or two ago to keep her out of this.
Yeah, it was last week.
And asked the Guardian to as well. Sorry, my weeks are all kind of blending together at this point. I think that if you were to do Mithrax, obviously that's the long-awaited story beat. It makes the most sense. With Ido, it would make sense because she's been raised differently than any other Elixni ever, and that's to know that the light provides.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if it was Mithrax at the same time, it would prove, if either one of them were rezzed by a ghost, it would prove Mithrax's saying and the motto of House Light correct. The light provides. And I think that would be like the ultimate thing to fly in the face of Spider, who's treated, ghosts so horribly in the past. Look at the ghost fragments and how he always, plays with the mounds of dead ghosts and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
For me, it would also be like if an Elixni got a ghost before Lightfall, that would kind of be like the final redeeming factor for the initial villain race.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the book we're going to read from next week talks about like why they became warriors and scavengers in the first place, and presents it from their point of view and not from the Guardian point of view, like we've always had.
Mm-hmm. Basically
saying like they attacked us first when we showed up on their planet, and like, well, no shit, they attacked you. You showed up on our planet,
right?
So I think there's a lot of really interesting plot threads here that are being laid out, and I feel like we're a few days away from really cracking not just this season wide open, but maybe the next great story of the Elixni.
Right.
If us knowing about Mithrax and confirming that we were working with him in Beyond Light was kind of the predecessor to what we got in Splicer, I wonder if this season and next season will be tied together, just like how Risen and Haunted were kind of tied together. They were kind of a continuous story as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it's cool. I think this is going to be a good... I think whatever...
great. Mithrax has long been one of the most interesting characters in the series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, by far. So. Well, Josh, I think we did it.
I'm ready.
I think we did it.
I'm ready to call it.
I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of Tower Casuals. Remember, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. Join the Discord. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. All that good stuff. Josh, thank you for your time tonight, as always. Where can we find you?
Twitter, @Josh_Finn, 2 N's.
Yeah, he's crying about some sports thing. It's not the Mavericks. Although the Seahawks won.
Listen, the Seahawks fucking won.
Geno Smith,
I've been
MVP.
quiet about it all night. But I've been absolutely insufferable the last couple of nights. To anybody who knows me outside of the Discord or outside of the show, I've been absolutely insufferable. My girlfriend has finally had it with me leaning over and whispering in her ear, "Let's ride." She's very upset that I keep saying that. And,
but it's so good.
It's so good. She didn't know what the context was, and I finally had to show her the video of Rust. She was like, "Oh my god."
It's so good, though.
It's so good. It's so good. I like it.
The Browns won too, though.
The Browns won too.
I
think that was more of... So that was more of like a Matt Rule collapse, and also like there was one specific play that the refs absolutely got wrong regarding the spike. You can't fake a spike and then spike it in the same play.
I know. Look, I'm not going to complain.
Definitely...
Look, if we would have lost to the quarterback we traded away, that would have ruined the season. It would have ruined the season.
Well, your season is already ruined, though, because you have Deshaun the Rapist Watson.
Well,
coming back in Week 12 in primetime against the Houston Texans.
Hey, right now we have Jacoby Brissett. We ride with 7, Josh. We ride with 7.
That's almost as bad as us. I would actually say that's probably worse than us, honestly. I would say Geno is better than Jacoby Brissett.
I mean, yeah, but we have Jacoby Brissett. And Josh Dobbs, though. We could play Josh Dobbs.
Who the fuck is Josh Dobbs?
He was the Steelers' third-string quarterback last year, and then they cut him, and then we signed him.
Yikes.
Best preseason MVP, though, Josh. That's what the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show said about Josh Dobbs, that he was the preseason MVP.
Cleveland Sports is fucking on something, let me tell you.
Hey, the Cavs, though, man. Donovan Mitchell.
The Cavs did. I mean, listen, man. I watched Donovan Mitchell get completely embarrassed in the playoffs for 6 games, so I don't know if I'd consider that a win or not.
Hey, you know what? It's the Cavs. Any player that has any sort of talent, I will take and not complain about. So
it's true. You did trade away the sex bot, though.
We did.
You traded away Colin Sexton, one of the greatest names ever in the history of professional sports.
And I mean, look, I know how much you wanted Colin Sexton, but anyways.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping you guys would just like hold on to him until the summer and we could pick him up for dirt cheap. But alas, it was not meant to be.
Not meant to be, Josh. I'm sorry.
But hey, Donovan Mitchell did not go to the New York Knicks, so Jalen Brunson is the number 1 player on the New York Knicks now. I hope you enjoy playing with your daddy.
Oh, no.
Because it's going to be a long couple of years for you, my friend.
Oh, my gosh.
Corey, get me out of here. Get us out of here.
You could follow me at I am Corey in HD on Twitter and Instagram. Also, by the way, if you're watching, I'm wearing my Tower Casuals hoodie. It's very comfortable.
It's very spiffy.
It is. It's very comfortable. You can own one if you want. If not, you don't have to. But it's comfortable. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. We'll see you next time, Guardians. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.